Galena Creek Regional Park has a combination of high desert and forest land ecosystems. The park has great trails to hike, mountain bike, horseback ride, backpack, and dispersed camp. The park also has ample opportunity for picnics, grilling, and access to volleyball courts, fishing, and most importantly, learning. With many different educational programs for youth and also the general public, Galena Creek has something for everyone. Galena Creek runs through the park and plays many important roles in the health of the local ecosystem. Galena Creek starts at an elevation of roughly 9,300 feet, in between the top points of Mount Rose and Tamarack Peak. It flows down Mount Rose through Galena Creek Park all the way down to Pleasant Valley Park, where it merges into Steamboat Creek. Eventually, Steamboat Creek will merge into the Truckee River on the southeastern border of Sparks until finally ending up into Pyramid Lake, all of which are within the Truckee River watershed boundaries. A watershed is a land area where all rivers, streams, creeks, and precipitation is collected into the water system. All the water within a watershed will eventually reach an outlet, which can be an ocean, reservoir, or channel. The Truckee River watershed spans from Lake Tahoe to Pyramid Lake. Following the path of the Truckee River, all the water within our watershed will eventually reach the outlet, which is Pyramid Lake. A riparian zone often will aid as a transition section. The high desert ecosystem does well with little water, but the forest land ecosystem needs more annual precipitation. So, the surrounding areas next to the water source will require different plants to thrive. Along the creek bank is where we will see willows, aspens, and other more water-dependent plant species. Erosion is the process of using friction to wear something down. This can be a fast or slow process depending on the tactic that is used. Natural erosion is caused by wind or water. However, there is a much more damaging type of erosion: human impact. Human impact on Galena Creek has altered the structure and function in many different sections of the bank. These sections of the creek, along with many more, have been highly eroded due to the human effects such as wandering off the trails, playing in the creek, and wearing down the creek bank. In efforts to repair the damage done, a restoration project took place. With the support from the Galena Creek Visitor Center, Nevada Conservation Corps, Great Basin Institute, the Forest Service, Washoe County Regional Park and Open Space, and the Truckee River Fund. The restoration project included preparing the creek bank, monitoring the creek, harvesting and preparing willow cuttings, and public outreach.
We begin the project by establishing a baseline for our monitoring data. In this first step, we seek to answer one question: what were the conditions of the creek prior to the work being done? This step is necessary for us to see how effective the restoration project was at restoring the creek. Monitoring involves gathering various data points about the stream that can be remeasured later on to see what advancements have been made. These data points include the width and depth of the stream at the restoration site, water quality tests such as temperature, clarity, and pH, as well as the presence of macroinvertebrates, which indicate a healthy ecosystem, among other tests. Now that we've established a baseline for the project, we can begin the hard, physical work. This involves preparing the site for restoration, clearing any rock and debris that are in the way, digging the trenches where we will plant our willow propagates, as well as armoring the bank to prevent further erosion. Now that the site is ready, we can begin planting our willow propagates. At the heart of this restoration project is the willow tree. The willow tree has several properties that make it desirable for our restoration purposes at this site. First, it is native to the area, so we won't be bringing in a plant that wasn't already here. Second, the plant is able to regenerate itself from cuttings. This means we can chop off a branch of an existing willow and plant it in the ground, and it will grow back. Lastly, willows are fast growing, which is exactly what we want in order to stabilize the stream bank as soon as possible. To plant these willows at our restoration site, we make what is called a wattle. A wattle is a grouping of willow cuttings that are tied together. The wattle then gets submerged underwater for up to 2 weeks, which helps stimulate root growth. After submerging, the wattles get inserted into their desired location on the stream bank. Each wattle gets anchored in place by a stake, another large willow cutting, and refilled with the excavated dirt. Lastly, we lay down a temporary netting over the entire site in order to prevent further erosion of the bank that might have been caused by the excavation. The idea is that these willow wattles will spread their roots underneath the stream bank, thereby stabilizing the soil and preventing further erosion. It is critical that we take special care in documenting each of these steps, so that later on we may analyze what techniques were successful and where we can improve. Although most of the hard work for this restoration project is complete, there is still much that can be done. The continued, methodical monitoring of the site is critical to track how effective the restoration project actually was at stabilizing the stream bank. Along with the same monitoring measurements that were taken prior to the project, we can also track progress of the site over time by looking at the growth of the site via pictures. In fact, even you can help us. Simply go to the Galena Creek restoration site and follow the directions on the sign for posting the image to our website. This will help us immensely in tracking the progression of the bank. By examining these photographs in chronological order, we can see how quickly the bank is recovering. Even though this project may not make a huge difference in saving the planet, it still makes a huge difference for Galena. This project helps us raise local awareness towards conservation efforts, as well as provides an opportunity to educate the public about how they can get involved in the protection of our wild spaces.
Howdy. My name is Samantha.
My name's Zach. We are with the Galena Creek Visitor Center. We're naturalists there.
Awesome.
And here we're doing a restoration project on the stream bank.
Awesome. We are Team Waddle. So what we've been doing is clipping branches off of all these like willows. So we're taking a bunch from a bunch of different plants and taking off the leaves.
So these willows is a native plant here that lives along the stream bank, which is why we're choosing these plants to pick, because they're the ones that are most likely to grow along the stream bank once we place them in their spot.
So we're gonna take these bundles and we're gonna soak them in the water. So we're gonna soak one for 24 hours and then the other is gonna be soaked for 14 days. And that is the max it can be soaked for. And then they're gonna be planted under the ground where new shoots will come up this way. We live in nature, and when we come to enjoy the park, we often don't realize our impact on the stream banks, and when we're walking all over them, it can erode and cause damage to the plants around it and the water, and that's where we get all our drinking water from. So we want clean water for us and everything else, and by planting native species on the stream bank, it helps restore that area from erosion.
It also just is exciting because it gives us some hope as to how we can help kind of heal our planet, and even if there's areas that have been really heavily impacted, there's still ways that we can all help to fix them and bring them back to their former glory.
Yeah, and we want to start now, because if we start too late, then there might not be any way to reverse the effects we have, and we don't want that.
I think it all starts with just finding what you're interested in and going out of your way to research it and to see how you can be a part of it. And most of all, just really cherishing your time in the outdoors and realizing that it's important to you and important to your family and important to everyone.
Environmental science is such an important topic, especially nowadays with everything that's going on in the world with climate change, and we're living in a pandemic right now. It's important for especially the youth to understand these global issues that we're going through and how important it is for us to do our part as humans to positively impact the environment and do what we can to not only enjoy the environment, but also do what we can to restore it and preserve it and conserve it and everything that nature is all about. And environmental science is a great way to start into that world, especially at a young age. It's just so easy to get into the environmental world at a young age, and it's so important for our youth to develop themselves into that and experience that and hopefully be the generation that solves all of our issues. There are so many options, and with the luxuries of internet, and just keep educating yourselves and find your place in the environmental world. You can volunteer through your local community and do a restoration project. Restoration projects are so important, and keep learning and evolving your minds to experience and educate yourself to fix our problems, keep thinking of solutions, and just keep being the little scientists that are going to run our world.
All right, hi everybody. I'm Laura. I'm the Visitor Center Outreach and Education Coordinator for GBI. So today we're working on the Truckee River Fund Restoration Project, which is to stabilize eroded sections of the Galena Creek, which have been eroded through human activity as well as natural causes of erosion. But the main reason that we're trying to get this project done is because eroded sections of a stream bank really negatively impact a watershed. So the Galena Creek is a tributary of the Truckee River watershed, which is a source of drinking water for the Reno, Sparks, Carson City metropolitan area. So it is very important to a lot of people. In addition to being a source of drinking water, it's a recreation area for so many, and it provides a lot of habitat and ecosystems for plants and animals in this area. So it's very important that we take care of it and we preserve it for future generations. And with the public parks such as the Galena Creek Regional Park that we're here in today, it's heavily trafficked, and we need to make sure that we are preserving these sites for future generations. So we're out here today working on this restoration project, just trying to, like I said, stabilize that stream bank with some native riparian species. So this is a really important project to us because it's right in our backyard. We're in the Galena Creek Regional Park. We work at the Galena Creek Visitor Center, which is a public outreach facility for the community, and it's near and dear to our hearts to make sure that this park is preserved and restored to all its glory and kept around for generations to come so everyone can enjoy it. This is something that I think everybody should get involved with in some capacity or another, is just environmental stewardship and recreation and getting involved and helping out your ecosystem. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. Maybe one day you come out and you volunteer for a restoration project like this, and you're out here planting willow propagates with us too. Or maybe it's as simple as making small changes in your lifestyle that are more eco-friendly. So, carpooling to work, or walking or riding a bike if you can. Or maybe it's eating one less meal with meat a week, or bringing reusable bags to the grocery store. The list goes on and on. There's so many ways that people can get involved and be environmental stewards and take care of the planet. And this is a restoration project that is not only going to hopefully help this ecosystem and improve water quality and soil stabilization on this bank.
So for this restoration project, I am working on documentation, filming, a little bit of photography, as to show the public and kids process for our restoration work and why it's important.
At the moment, we're digging trenches and holes so that we have good clean space to put cottonwoods and willows into.
So I'm on the monitoring team, so what we're trying to do is figure out the different tests and surveys that we're going to do to monitor the restoration of this area and figure out what is growing back and what's not growing, and how we can do these monitoring projects with kids. Yeah, so the primary reason that we're doing this restoration project is to reduce erosion and kind of restore soil stability and vegetation and cover and habitat and things like that. So we definitely are going to do a lot of vegetative surveys, so looking at how the willows are growing, how the other plants are growing, as well as soil stability, how much of the ground is covered by plants. And then we're also looking at things like the angle of the bank, and then more biological things like macroinvertebrates, and the things that are living in the water that kind of depend on the banks. I feel like restoration is important for obvious reasons. As people who live in this area and recreate in this area, it's really important that we do whatever we can to care for the land and make sure that we're not having negative impacts on it, and the opposite, we're having positive impacts on the land and not just allowing something to be neglected or abused by people. And I think a project like this is really important because it's so visible to people, and so many people come through this park, and so many people come through this section of the park too. And seeing that people are, restoring an area makes visitors more aware of the importance of, not contributing to eroding a stream bank. And it just makes people more aware of what's going on and gives kind of ecological learning, and increases the understanding that people have of ecology and conservation.
All of these stages are crucial for the effectiveness of the restoration to ensure a positive future for this ecosystem. Although erosion is inevitable within nature, humans can do their part by minimizing their impact. Always follow the 7 principles of Leave No Trace. This includes staying on designated trails, disposing of waste properly, and leaving what you find. Visit the park and take advantage of our Citizen Science project by snapping a picture of the sites to help us study the restoration efforts. Vote for conservation-minded politicians. And finally, tell your friends. Thank you to the Great Basin Institute, Nevada Conservation Corps, the Forest Service, Washoe County Regional Park and Open Space for supporting, and the Truckee River Fund for funding these projects.